What's going on, y'all? This is No Strings Podcast, episode 26, the companion video to my podcast. Just finished doing a recording to the podcast. Um, no Strings, episode 26, No Strings with the credit cards. And that was an interesting one to do because as someone who was in $24,000 of credit card debt, I talk about this story in multiple episodes, and I'm even in my first ever episode of the pod. Um, being that far down, man, it was tough, and I was able to dig myself out of it. Um, but in the episode, I kind of go two different lanes. The first lane I talk about is the dangers of credit card debt, the 15 to 35% APR rate. Millennials, so much debt, average debt around 6,000 or so dollars in credit card debt. Um, I dip into the different ways the credit cards get you, scam you, the bonus points, all the offers that they try to tag you into, and also, what do you use your credit cards for? I mean, even if you're watching this video right now, like, what do you use your credit cards for? Is it a gap? Do you help use it to bridge a gap for like an emergency, or are you paying for trips and shoes and clothes and bags and you going out to eat on the card, just not really worrying about it, not worrying about the interest, not worrying about how it's going to bite you down the road. Um, so that's definitely one thing to think about. I will cite two different videos down in the description below. One from the Wall Street Journal and one from CNBC that they released pretty much both in the span of this past month, one last week and one about 3 or so weeks ago. Because there's one video that talks about, the debt and how insurmountable it is, how millennials, in terms of generational wealth, they're so behind the curve. And so that's kind of like the first half of the of a podcast. But I wanted to spin it a different way in doing the podcast, almost like a Jekyll and Hyde type of thing, where on the back half I talk about what are the advantages, referencing like the CNBC video that I watched, why you should use credit cards. You have the travel points, the rewards, the perks. Definitely shout out to all the YouTubers that talk about that, like John Liang, and you got Daniel Braun, Brian Jung, Ask Sebi, like all those guys are like credit card maneuverers and shifters. Even the community on Reddit, I think Reddit are churning, where they talk about all of the different ways you can take advantage of the credit card points. And I did. I mean, I'm part of the Chase Sapphire community as of this year. I'm trying to see if I can go to Paris and try to bank on the points for other experiences and whatnot. But I'm in a position where I'm comfortable to do it. Credit cards aren't for everybody. You can't start playing this game if you don't have like no money, no income, no budget. And credit cards are always like on the bottom rung because you're going to use credit cards to make a purchase most of the time. Um, when you do have a surplus of money, of course you pay down your debt, and of course you invest your money, invest as much as you can. But for some of these perks and rewards, like for Chase Sapphire, I prefer 5 times points when you're doing rides on when you're using your card to pay for Lyft rides, or maybe you get a different card that has like grocery perks, multiple points on groceries. So there's so many ways to game or try to game the system. Ultimately, the banks will always get their due and get their dollar. So don't get that misconstrued at all. But it's just something to think about. For me, it's being someone who was on one side of the fence, being in all so much debt, and then being able to get out. Um, I'm curious at this point, just to see how things go from there. I won't dip backwards. I'm always looking to go forwards. Just like my podcast, it's No Strings Podcast, living life with no strings financially, mentally, physically, all of that. Being the best person that you can be. But I think that this new, this sort of world, this credit card world, just dipping my toes in just a little bit. But again, y'all, just a companion video. As always, I implore you to check out me on my podcast, episode 26, available on all platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify. I'm being brought to you by FSP, Spotify for Podcasters. And I'm also on social media, TikTok, and all of that. All that's below. But like and subscribe to the video. Just out here chilling and vibing, man, and just keeping the content going and trying to share as much as I can. So I'll catch y'all on the next one. Take care.